Asterisco imagine buying your dream home, only to find out your neighbor has been stealing your water for years. Not a few gallons. Not a misunderstanding. I follow legal siphon running straight into his house, feeding his tenants, and cutting into your bills. So I taught him a lesson, one that cost him his house, his tenants, and every last penny he had left. Asterisco. If you've ever had a neighbor who thought your property was theirs, or someone who believed rules simply didn't apply to them, hit that like button. Subscribe for more deeply satisfying revenge stories. Becaucito de Istale? This one ends with karma hitting harder than a brick. I never imagined that buying a house could become the most stressful, and strangely satisfying, experience of my life. And trust me, I wasn't ready for the kind of neighbor who was waiting for me on the other side of that wall. I live in Asia, and a few months ago, I bought what I thought was a great deal, a house in the capital city from family friends. They hadn't lived here in years. They needed cash fast. I needed a place to call my own. It felt like a win-win. But the house was rough. No gatti. Half done renovations. Main door locked with a padlock like it was an abandoned shed. Still, I moved in right away because the location was perfect. But on day one, I sold bin on something was wrong. Bicicleta the first red flag. When I walked into my garage, a random motorcycle was parked inside like it lived there. No note. No neighbor saying hello. Nothing. So, I rolled it out onto the street and had a gate installed the same day. That evening someone started banging on my gate like he owned the place. I didn't answer. Eventually he walked off, angrily dragging the motorcycle. That was when a tiny voice inside whispered, "This neighborhood is going to be a problem." Símbolo de prohibido pasar, the angry neighbor. Aside from people blocking my gate until I put up a no parking sign, things seemed quiet. But then, I met him. My next door neighbor. An old man who lived on the ground floor of a 3-story house and rented out the upper 2 floors. My family friends had warned me about him. He hates that we sold the house, they told me. He says the neighborhood is worse now. He thinks this street belongs to him. But I'm a 6-foot guy with 3 dogs. I wasn't worried about some grumpy retiree. Maybe a soul bin. Gota the water pressure mystery. One night, I was in the shower when I noticed something weird. My water pressure dropped hard. At the same time, I heard his water pump running. The timing was just too suspicious. His house relied on a pump to push water up 3 floors. Mine didn't. So why did my water drop when his pump turned on? I tested it. I waited for his pump to switch off. Turned on a tap. Pressure went back to normal. When it ran again, pressure dropped again. And that's when everything clicked. Torretas de policía, he was stealing my water. The previous owners always had high water bills, even when no one lived there. They blamed leaks. No. These men had been siphoning water from my pipeline for years. Probably walked into the abandoned house at some point and connected a pipe directly into my supply line. I didn't know where the pipe was. But I didn't need to. I knew enough. Báscula the decision. Now it is the thing. Water in my country is cheap. They're cheap. Even with his theft, I only paid like $5 a month. But this wasn't about money. This was about entitlement. About someone thinking they could take what wasn't theirs. About disrespect. And it started to eat at me. Sold I confront him? Sold I call the authorities? Sold I let it slide? Or should I teach him a lesson? Foco the plan, simple. Legal. Devastating. He didn't break into anything. He didn't damage anything on his property. All I did was turn off my water from the main valve. One twist. That's it. But that single move set up a chain reaction that destroyed his entire life. Ya ve inglesa how pump systems work, and why this matters. His pump worked like this. A float valve in his roof tank detects water levels. If water is low, pump switches on. When tank fills, pump shuts off. But since my water was feeding his pump, and I shut the water off, the pump ran dry. And running a pump with no water? It's a death sentence for the wiring. Fuego, everything goes wrong at 3 de la mañana. At around 3 pulgadas the morning, I woke up to commotion. People talking loudly. Doors opening. Shouting becoming clearer. His pump had run all night trying to suck water from my pipe. The constant power draw overwhelmed his old 90s wiring. And everything burned out. No electricity. No water. Nothing. His tenants? Furious. Under state law, landlords must provide functional water and electricity. No excuses. Tenants lodged a police complaint immediately. And the next few days were a beautiful masterpiece of karma unfolding. Símbolo de choque, consequences hit hard. Both tenants moved out. They had to refund security deposits. He was fined $500 by the police. He needed to upgrade all wiring and fix all plumbing before renting again. He couldn't afford any of this. That's when I heard the news. He was moving out, permanently. Going to live with his daughter because he had no income left. The man who thought he could steal from me lost everything. The confrontation. He did eventually come to my gate, eyes tired, voice flat. "Did you turn off your water?" he asked. He smiled politely. "Oh yeah, I had a leak in one of my pipes. Turned it off until the plumber fixed it the next day." The look on his face. Ella never forget it. Not angry. Not confused. Just defeated. He knew. He absolutely knew. But he couldn't say a word. He had built his comfort on theft. He gambled with my goodwill. And he paid for it. Cleaning up the last loose ends. He hired a plumber the following week to remove any pipes leaving my property. He sealed every line. Every joint. Every inch. Never again. He lost his pump. His wiring. His tenants. His income. His home. And every excuse he had for invading my property. All because I turned one valve. One small action. A lifetime of consequences. This wasn't just revenge. This was justice. And honestly, it felt perfect. Sometimes karma doesn't need to be violent. Sometimes all it takes is letting someone trip over their own arrogance. If he had simply respected boundaries, none of this would be happened. But entitlement always has a price. If this story gave you chills or made you smile, hit like. Tell me in the comments, what's the worst neighbor you've ever dealt with? And of course, subscribe for more jaw-dropping revenge stories that remind us, karma never misses.